no, Sufjan, you never fail to disappoint. Sufjan Stevens is an artist with such a vast catalogue of music at this point, and yet the consistency is remarkable. He hasn't really ever dropped to a low level at all. In fact, generally, he puts out really, really good albums and really should be in the conversation for one of the best songwriters of the modern day. You could even put him in the all-time conversation, I think, at this point too, because of the amount of brilliant albums he's got under his belt, the beautiful, stark, vivid writing that he brings to the table almost every single time, and the way he makes such pained and disturbing art in such a beautiful way. That's one of the things I think he's always managed to really do so well, like turning such sad topics, such depressing topics into beautiful albums. And look, there aren't many out there that manage to do that, really. Obviously, Carrie and Lowell will be the clear example to use for this, but that's not the only one, really. He's always had that beautiful pen game under his belt for many, many years now, and Javelin is just another addition to the list and is up there somehow after all these albums with one of his best. I can't believe I'm saying this, but sometimes artists just find a way to do it again and again and again, and Sufjan is that guy. He has delivered here so stupendously and given us one of the best albums of the year for sure. Absolutely one of the best albums of the year, without a doubt. And the reason I think Carrie and Lowell is a worthy example to bring up, because I do think there are parallels to Carrie and Lowell with this album. And I think what makes this album interesting as well is that it actually takes some of the ideas that he may have explored on that album musically and just lifted them a little bit more into a beautiful array of just exquisite instrumentation throughout this album. Production is so lavish, the attention to detail is beautiful, the stunning arrangements on these tracks, the backing vocals that pop up on almost nearly every single track actually, never gets boring, never gets old, and just hits every single goddamn time. Goodbye Evergreen feels like a beautiful ode, and the fact that he did announce when this album came out that this was, you know, a sort of love letter to the partner he had who passed away sadly, which I think he kept under wraps. I don't think he mentioned that his, you know, boyfriend, I don't think he was married actually. I at least don't think that was ever announced anyway, but had passed away. Like, it just kind of was just like, whoa, like, no way, this is just kind of come out now. Like, it never really seemed like a big news story or anything like that. He kept it under wraps, and now with that in mind, listening to some of these tracks, you're kind of thinking, oh wow, like, are these songs in reference to him? Because a track like this, I mean, could quite easily be interpreted in that way, you know, referring to him as the Evergreen, and just having this beautiful ode to the loss there. One of my favorite things about this track though is that kind of weird, broken, odd instrumental clanging that comes towards the end. That just sounds really disjointed and messy in a purposeful way for sure, but honestly it reminds me a lot of something Perfume Genius would do. Like, I could totally imagine a Perfume Genius song ending in this kind of fashion. In fact, we've heard songs like from No Shape, or maybe even the more recent experimental albums that Perfume Genius has put out, kind of have these weird sort of odd moments come out that way. And yeah, I thought it was a really, really fantastic end to the track. I really love Running Start as well. I just love how he creates these bright and hopeful tunes, but sings with such longing sadness. I mean, he does it every time. It's probably something people have said for years now about his music. So it's not like I'm saying anything new, but I get taken aback by it every time. I get swept away under what he's doing every single time. He just sells me on it all the time. Everything that rises, again, could you interpret that as, you know, the passing of his boyfriend, you know, kind of like rising to heaven in some kind of way? I don't know, it seems too cliche to say that, but this is what I mean. When I first heard the album, I just kind of consumed the music as I do. I do it very FIFO-like. You know, if you ever watch Dead End Hip Hop, FIFO is always like, oh yeah, I just listen to the music on first listen. I'm the same actually. I tend to just let it sink in, and then I sort of dive into it further. But after my first listen, you know, I wasn't really paying attention to the details. But once he'd announced that, I was then listening to the album thinking, oh man, could this be referencing that? And it's like once again, a Carrie Lowell moment where you just pick up on these little details, these intricacies in the lyrics, and you're just unpacking it all. And there's just so much to it, and there's so many layers to the lines he's bringing out. Like, it just makes you really think. Yeah, what a track though. Beautiful song. Genuflecting Ghost as well. Just want to read out the line that I thought was really beautifully written. Give myself as a sacrifice. Genuflecting Ghost, I kiss no more. This kind of like worshipping idea of, like, you know, this ghost that he can no longer kiss, and he'd rather be the person swapping in the place of the ghost, possibly. It's, again, quite hard to decipher, but with the extra information, you're kind of then thinking, yeah, this has a bit more meaning to it than I initially thought. But even still, what a beautifully worded line. So You Are Tired is a track that I've already talked about on this channel. Actually, it did come out as a single, did a reaction for it, so I've already kind of outlined my thoughts on that track. Beautiful song, by the way. Vocally, it's just stunning. The music I just find so glorious in such a strange way, because it does feel so heavy on the emotions, but yet just so powerful musically. It's so great, honestly. This album's full of tracks like this. Like I say, I feel like once you start to get to grips with the album, you do notice a lot of similar things across the tracks, but it just never gets old, really. Like, it never really gets to the point where I'm just like bored of it, or I'm getting sick of the ideas or anything like that. But I really love this part of the track where he says, so you are tired of me, so rest your head, turning back all that we have had in our life while I return to death. I thought that was a stunning part of the track too. Kind of reads a bit more like maybe of like a breakup, this track, actually. You know, it just doesn't feel like it doesn't feel in the way that you'd expect it to, based on what the album is kind of being an ode to. Shit talk as well, actually. This track feels like it's hit a point where two people just can't communicate on the same wavelength anymore. Things are just going awry all the time, and it's just like, I will always love you, but this kind of needs to come to an end in a way. But my God, talk about musical moments in 2023. This will live on, my friends. This track is insane. You just think it's going to end, but then the instrumentation just kind of finds a way to keep on building on top of one another. It just keeps finding a way to crescendo in such a absolutely stunning way. I keep using this word, but it really does. It's unbelievable the way this track just keeps on building on itself, and it just keeps going. Like, again, by the end, you're thinking, nah, it's going to end. Yeah, it's going to end. It's going to end. It just doesn't. Just keeps going. Got to be one of the most satisfying musical moments of the year for sure. I mean, I was thinking So You Are Tired was going to be one of my tracks of the year, and maybe it still could be on my list, but thinking harder now I've listened to this album multiple times, I mean, this track is just the one that keeps on standing out to me. It is absolutely incredible. I mean, just getting to this point in your career and still being able to write songs this good. I mean, Sufjan, man, what a guy. It's that bit as well where he says, I don't want to fight at all as well. The way he sort of manipulates his voice on that part of the track is just so fantastic. There's so many things to love about this song, honestly. Just an all-timer for Sufjan, really. Like, to get to this point and still keep reinventing yourself and making songs like this. This is what I mean. This guy's got to be in the conversation for one of the best songwriters of all time. And yet, we don't really see it as much. You know, you look at like the general conversations around music, a lot of, you know, mentions of, I mean, even like in the mainstream, you know, you got someone like Ed Sheeran that is constantly praised for his writing style, but I don't really think, you know, he holds a candle to a song like this, and yet the lack of appreciation on a global level for this is just so depressing, really. As depressing as the song is, like, Jesus Christ, it's an absolute mind blower of a song. One of his best ever. Yeah, wow. And it sums up the album really nicely, honestly. It's just an album that feels familiar in the music side of things, but also is just touching the emotions in a new way. Like, it feels like we haven't necessarily heard songs like this from Sufjan before, even though some of the topics might feel similar and some of the instrumentation might feel similar. It just feels different as an overall album to Carrie Lowell. to Illinois to Michigan, you know, like these aren't similar albums, to be honest, but yeah, I think it's fantastic. Will Anybody Ever Love Me as well? I didn't even mention that track too, but just the pain delivery in his voice just gets me every time. Like seriously, this is one you're going to sit down with and maybe cry a few times to if you are quite, you know, emotionally sensitive, I guess. You know, if you're sensitive to this kind of thing, you're going to want to sit down and really be prepared, because I think there's a lot of points in this album that can really hit hard, because they absolutely do. But yeah, I absolutely love this. This is brilliant. Can't hesitate here. I have to say it's an album of the year contender. I mean, it's going to be up there in my top 5 by the end of the year for sure. And with that in mind, a 9 out of 10 seems like the only score appropriate here. This is incredible. I haven't given too many 9 out of 10s this year, actually. So a bit exciting, you know, not many of those have been dished out, but this one I think is absolutely worthy of that score, and I hope you agree as well. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on what I have said in this review. I know Rate Your Music has this a very high rating too, so you can call me a nerd if you want, but I say what I mean and I mean what I say. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Do have a good day and goodbye.